aspirants. This is AIPMT 4 discussion, and you may have given the earlier test also, AIPMT 1, AIPMT 2 and 3 also. And you can see that we are bringing so many variations in different subjects, asking questions in these AIPMTs. So you can solve further all the AIPMTs, and yes, Panchasutra test in the end in March and April. You can ask your friends also, you can suggest them the quality paper that they need to give before your, let's say, prelims examination. Such kind of mock test AIPMTs are very important to solve. Now first we will discuss the geography section and then environment section. So geography section, as you can see that out of 15 questions we have asked some concept based questions from climatology and geomorphology, oceanography, and some questions from Indian let's say climate also. So we are, let's say, adding more questions from the Indian geography also now onwards. So basically I am, let's say, making more of a combinations, so that if new elements are, let's say, brought by UPSC, but the common element is mapping section and places in news. Yes, that we have, let's say, asked 4 to 5 questions like that. Let's solve these MCQs. We have kept this pattern. We expect that UPSC ask such kind of framing, like 3 statements are there, and especially from the concepts of climatology and geomorphology. So yes, first question, equatorial regions receive more solar insolation than the polar regions. Now in such kind of, let's say, framing, the first statement is by default correct, right? Because if you see the options, from that you get the idea. So yes, that is true, equatorial regions receive more solar insolation than the polar region, and this is, let's say, redistributed through the lateral heat budget that our earth is maintaining. Now look at the second statement, vertical rays make shorter angle with the surface of the earth. Now vertical rays which are received in the equatorial region. So what happens if you see, let's say this is the earth and this is the atmosphere of the earth, and let's say from this side the sun rays are coming like this. Now which area receives the vertical rays? Basically near the equator. Let's say this is the equator. So all these rays are received in a vertical direction. Now shorter angle it is saying, rather here the 90-degree angle is made, right? Vertical rays. So it is not shorter angle, 90 degree is not shorter angle, rather if you see this region, here it is making acute angle, and that's why it is shorter angle. So vertical rays do not make shorter angle with the surface of the earth. This is incorrect statement. Now the net energy received per unit area is directly proportional to the area covered. Now if we talk about the net energy received, so net energy received in the equatorial region is, we can say, more, but the less area it is covering, we can say that, into the atmosphere, as well as we can say this area. So on the surface of the earth as well as when it is passing through the atmosphere, less area is covered, so more net energy is received. So rather it is inversely proportional rather than directly proportional. So this statement is also incorrect. So second and third statement both are incorrect. So neither statement 2 nor statement 3 is correct. Okay, so D is the correct answer. So getting this, so why equatorial region receives more solar insolation? Because the direct sun rays making the 90-degree angle, or we can say that larger angle, and net energy received is much more in the equatorial region, because less we can say that area is covered, more energy is received. ऐसे हम बात कर सकते हैं. Now next question. Okay, again statement 1, statement 2. Assertion reason kind of question. Strong upward winds are not experienced at the surface of the earth. So that is true. We can see that the strong upward movement of the winds is only due to convection, especially in equatorial region, not all over the earth. But if you see all over the earth, horizontal movement of the wind is very strong, like planetary winds or local winds or seasonal winds. So that is, we can say that, true. The vertical pressure gradient force is less than the horizontal pressure gradient. So it is talking generally. Now we know that pressure gradient force is responsible for wind movement, be it vertical or horizontal. But at the same time we should understand that as we are moving from the earth's surface from the mean sea level in the upward direction in altitude, the pressure goes on decreasing. So in the upper altitude, higher atmosphere, the pressure is very low. So this pressure gradient from the upper atmosphere and lower atmosphere is much more than the horizontal pressure gradient. Then why don't we see such kind of vertical movement of the wind despite of such pressure gradient? Because it is counterbalanced by the centrifugal force of the earth, right. So what is centrifugal force? It is due to earth's rotation. Now that centrifugal force is counterbalancing this pressure gradient, vertical pressure gradient force, and that is why we do not see such kind of vertical movement of the wind all over the earth. But if we talk about the horizontal pressure gradient force, it is not being counterbalanced by the gravitational, or we can say that centrifugal force. So from that angle you should understand let us say centrifugal force or the gravitational force of the earth, either of it you can say that because of it is counterbalancing it, right. So vertical pressure gradient force is less than, यहाँ पर लिखा हुआ है, rather it is much more than we can say horizontal. So this statement is incorrect, second statement is incorrect, we got it, so C is the correct answer here. Now look at this question. Yes, the question command is saying incorrect. Okay, which of the statement given is incorrect? So first we need to carefully read the question command. Deep focus earthquakes produce stronger surface waves than the shallow earthquakes. Now this statement is basically incorrect. Why? Because shallow focus earthquakes, they produce stronger surface waves. Surface waves are formed because of the interaction of body waves with the surface rocks. So when the shallow focus earthquake happens, immediately, quickly, whatever the energy that is released in terms of body waves, they are reaching to the surface as it is without any, we can say that, losing that heat in the traveling of Earth's interior, and that is why most of that energy is gained by the surface rocks, and then the surface waves are formed. They are more, we can say, destroying, more stronger, and more, we can say that it can cause the destruction. So first statement is incorrect. Most of the shaking felt from the earthquake is due to Rayleigh wave. Now this is correct statement. We have to be identifying incorrect statement. So one only is the correct answer. Now why we are saying that most of the destruction is happening through the Rayleigh waves? Surface waves are of two types, Rayleigh waves and L waves or love waves. So Rayleigh waves will have the movement like this. The surface rocks are moving like this. Okay. And that is much more destructive. What happens in the L waves or love waves? They are moving like this. Okay, like snake movement. So what happens because of this, let us say Rayleigh waves, it is like continuous upward, strong upward downward movement, and as well as forward and backward movement. That creates lot of destruction, we can say that. So that is why this statement is correct. Okay. So A is the correct answer here. Now moving on, again we can say statement 1, statement 2 type of question. So in the northern hemisphere, the summer is slightly longer than the winter. Now this is correct, we can say that first statement. Now why we are saying like this, that summer, generally we will say that here it is of let us say around 191 days or 181 days. ठीक है, और जो विंटर होगा, जो रिमेनिंग डेज, सो ज़्यादा डेज का हम बोल सकते हैं कि नदर्न हेमिस्फीयर में longer होता है. Now why it is let's say observed. Now if you see, when there is summer in the northern hemisphere, the earth is, we can say, at the longer position. We can say that it is the aphelion position, longer position. If we consider, let's say drawing this, let's say this is the elliptical path, these two are the foci. Let's say the earth is, or the sun is located in one of the foci, the earth is revolving around the sun. So longer position is, we can say that this one, aphelion, and this is perihelion, right. So if you talk about the Kepler's second law of planetary motion, according to Kepler's second law of planetary motion, the speed of the planet increases as it nears the sun, as it has to swipe the equal area in equal amount of time. And for that purpose it increases and decreases the speed. So when it is reaching here in the nearby position, it quickly moves like this. The planet quickly moves, and as it is farther away, it moves slowly and slowly, so as to sweep the same amount of area in same amount of time. And that is why we can say second statement is correct, and it is correctly explaining the statement 1. So answer would be A here. Alright, now moving on. ठीक है, यहाँ पे देखिए कि सीजन्स दिए हुए हैं, इंडियन मंथ्स अकॉर्डिंग टू इंडियन कैलेंडर एंड ग्रेगोरियन कैलेंडर. देयर इज वन टेबल इन 11th स्टैंडर्ड एनसीईआरटी इंडियन ज्योग्राफी. So the physical geography or world let's say geography also, there you can find such let's say table, and there match the following we have asked, although most of the student actually tend to ignore this. But पहले के time पे UPSC used to ask such kind of questions, little bit of specific information. So चैत्र, वैशाख, ज्येष्ठ, आषाढ़, ऐसे आपको sequence हिंदी या let's say regional language में भी आपको पता है regional calendars जो होता है अलग अलग. तो yes, वसंत ऋतु, चैत्र, वैशाख, yes it is in March, April, so mid March में start होता है Indian calendar generally, and then we can say it continues, right. This season is Vasant Rutu. Thereafter we can say that different let's say seasons are there. Varsha Rutu is during summer or during monsoon time period, we can say Shravan and Bhadra, and then July August time period is there. Then Sharda is there, Sharad we can say that Sharad Rutu is there, Ashwin and Kartik months are there, September and October time period. Then Shishir is we can say that time period after we can say winter. So Magh and Falgun, so January and February, basically all of these, all four are correctly matched here. So D is the correct answer. So you may find this difficult, you should not attempt if you are not let's say confident about it. Now this is easier one. According to Köppen's climatic classification of Indian different regions of India, let's see AS. So small s is basically summer dry. So when we have the dry summer, which region in India experiences dry summer? It is the Coromandel coast. Okay, so AS, Tamil Nadu coast. So there we do not have the rainfall from the southwest monsoon, rather from the northeast or retreating monsoon. So AS, it is incorrectly matched. CWG, Ganga plains. So this small g is given for the Ganga plains or North Indian plains only. So one can use that logic to remember the things. This is correctly matched. Now DFC, it is we can say cold climate. So it is there in Arunachal Pradesh. DFC, let's say precipitation throughout the year and very low temperatures are there. So we can say that it is moving towards the polar climates. It is correctly matched. AW, winter dry. So it is most of the peninsula south of Tropic of Cancer. That is true, we can say interiors of the continent, south of Tropic of Cancer, south of Vindhyas, we can say that this kind of climate is there. So it is incorrectly matched. Only two pairs are correctly matched here. B is the correct answer. Alright, next is, yes, Shola forest. So different types of forest in India, it is talking about let's say specific information about that, and we have to find the correct statement. Sholas in Nilgiris, Annamalais and Palani hills are temperate forests. This is correct, and these forests are very unique. They are source of waters, we can say that, for important rivers including Kaveri river. Shola forests are unique, let's say having unique kind of biodiversity also. They have unique grasslands also, Shola grasslands. ठीक है, तो temperate forest है वो, एक certain height पे ऊपर है, that's why we call them as separate temperate forest. Then Shisham, Neem, Khejri, Palas trees are found in dry deciduous. So dry deciduous one can use the logic जो राजस्थान में मिलता है, Khejri trees, Neem, Palas. But if you specifically talk about Shisham, Shisham is we can say that the moist deciduous. ड्राई रीजन्स में भी मिलता है, बट प्रॉपर क्लासिफिकेशन की बात करेंगे तो ये मॉइस्ट डेसिडियस में आता है, तो इट इज वेरी स्पेसिफिक इंफॉर्मेशन. सो सेकंड इज इनकरेक्ट. प्रेजेंस ऑफ इपीफाइट्स, क्लाइंबर्स, इपीफाइट्स जो होता है क्लाइंबर्स होता है. It's special characteristics of tropical evergreen forest. This is correct, we can say, because from the ground there is very low sun, let's say sunlight is reaching because of dense canopy, and that's why these climbers are climbing with the help of stems of these tall trees. So epiphytes is very unique to, we can say, tropical evergreen forest. Tropical moist deciduous forest covers the majority of, let's say, India. Area wise we can say that is true. About 37% of the total area of India or total forest cover, we can say that is covered by the let's say deciduous forest, moist deciduous especially. ठीक है, यहाँ पे कई सारे डेटा आप ऑनलाइन देखोगे तो कहीं पे ड्राई डेसिडियस, कहीं पे मॉइस्ट डेसिडियस दिया हुआ है, बट मॉइस्ट डेसिडियस इज वी कैन से दैट द आंसर हियर 134, that is D is the correct answer. Then yes, again easier one, if you read the NCERT properly, there is one table in let's say 12th standard NCERT of Indian geography. So which of the following is not a Rabi crop? So Rabi, Kharif and Zaid crops, उसमें टेबल में ग्रुपिंग करके भी दिया हुआ है. इन एक्सप्लेनेशन यू कैन रीड, यू कैन डाउनलोड ऑल द क्वेश्चन पेपर एंड एक्सप्लेनेशन ऑफ ऑल दिस लेट्स से पेपर्स इन द डिस्क्रिप्शन ऑफ दिस यूट्यूब डिस्कशन. ठीक है, तो आप डिस्क्रिप्शन से डाउनलोड कर लीजिए वहाँ से. Yes, so rape seed again we can say rabi crop है, mustard is rabi crop, gram is also rabi crop, tur is a kharif crop. Okay, खरीफ क्रॉप है. तो हम बोल सकते हैं कि ये जो आंसर है इसमें हमें पूछा गया है कि नॉट रबी क्रॉप बोला गया है, तो हम बोल सकते हैं डी इज द करेक्ट आंसर. डी इज द करेक्ट आंसर हियर. देन नेक्स्ट इज ऑलराइट माइंस एंड मिनरल्स. सो वी हैव टू फाइंड द करेक्टली मैच्ड पेयर्स. बालाघाट, बालाघाट में क्या है, कॉपर माइंस है ना. ओके, सो बालाघाट इन एमपी, कॉपर माइंस, इट इज फेमस फॉर कॉपर माइंस, इनकरेक्टली मैच्ड. Bailadila in Chhattisgarh, southern part of Chhattisgarh, there is iron ore. This is true. This iron ore is let's say exported from the Visakhapatnam or Vizag port. We can say that there is one pipeline through which iron slurry is basically transported to that port, and then it is exported mostly to Japan and China. Then Bokaro, yes, very important location for we can say coal in Jharkhand, Bokaro. So this is correctly matched. Bilaspur in Chhattisgarh, it is famous for bauxite. Okay, Chhattisgarh mein. So this is incorrectly matched. Only 2 pairs are correctly matched here. So remember the important mines. ठीक है, जो भी NCERT में दिया हुआ है एटलीस्ट वो ठीक से करो. Identify the country's demographic condition from the population pyramid. So this time we have brought this innovation. In past UPSC used to ask such kind of let's say maps, graphs they used to give, and they used to ask identify. The way in economy they are asking the calculation based kind of question. In mapping and in geography there is always scope for such kind of creativity in framing the questions. Now this is again from NCERT and yes, हम बोल सकते हैं कि ये एक्चुअली कट होना चाहिए. जापान अगर आपको दिखता है तो यहाँ से सही आंसर आप इजीली मार्क कर लोगे. But if you see the base of this particular pyramid, the base of pyramid is very small. That means the children between age of let's say 0 to 5 are very less, and that shows the low fertility rate in the country, and that shows the declining population. So B is the correct answer here, right? B is the correct answer. Now further, so Rio Grande river forms the boundary. Mapping related questions है अभी ये. Rio Grande River originates in US and then drains to the south, forming the boundary between US and not Canada, Mexico, and then it drains into Gulf of Mexico. So first one is incorrect. Zambezi River forms boundary between Zambia and Zimbabwe. This is correct. We can say it forms the Kariba Dam, and Kariba Lake is formed on this let's say boundary region only. Mekong River forms the boundary between Laos and Thailand. This is correct. We can say that. Parana River forms the boundary between Paraguay and Argentina. This is also true. We can say that. So 3 we can say statements are correct. Only 3. That is C is the correct answer. Then Kaveri. So rivers in India, cities on their banks. So we have asked the ancient cities or ancient let's say centers in India, important cities and let's say rivers. In past there was one such kind of question. They may repeat that theme. So Kaveri, Madurai. Madurai is not let's say located on the bank of Kaveri. Basically it is located on Vaigai river in Tamil Nadu. Then Tungabhadra, Hampi. This is correctly matched. Okay, Tungabhadra, Hampi. Even in past in one of the tests we have asked this thing. Godavari, Amravati. So Amravati is not located on the bank of Godavari, rather it is on the bank of Krishna. Okay, so it is in Andhra Pradesh. So this is incorrect. Sharda river, Ayodhya. Ayodhya is not on the bank of Sharda river. So it is on Sharayu river. Okay. So this is incorrect. So only one let's say pair is correctly matched. A is the correct answer here. Alright, next. So how many of the above countries share border with Black Sea? So very simple traditional question. Black Sea, North Sea or Caspian Sea, Mediterranean Sea, bordering nations. So you should be having some kind of mnemonics or इसको बार-बार revise करके mug up कर लो, ठीक है? So border countries with Black Sea region has been continuously in news because of Ukraine-Russia conflict also, ठीक है? So Romania is there, Russia is there, Ukraine is there, Bulgaria is also there, and from this southern side Turkey and Georgia is also there. मोल्डोवा नहीं है, मोल्डोवा जो है हम लैंडलॉक है, हम ऐसा बोल सकते हैं, सो इट इज नॉट देयर, सो ओनली 5, राइट, सी इज द करेक्ट आंसर, ओनली 5 इज द करेक्ट आंसर. Again, now places in news, we can say regions in news and reasons for which they are in news. Essequibo region or Essequibo river is also there in Guyana. So conflict between Guyana and Venezuela, not US. तो आपको लग सकता है न्यूज़ में है US वेनेजुएला कॉन्फ्लिक्ट, तो आप मार्क कर दोगे. गुयाना एंड टेरिटोरियल डिस्प्यूट है, गुयाना एंड वेनेजुएला. इट इज मिनरल रिच रीजन और ऑयल रिच रीजन, वी कैन से दैट, क्रूड ऑयल. Donbass or Donetsk basin, Donetsk river in Ukraine. So yes, conflict between Russia and Ukraine. At present, Russia has, let's say, taken over a majority of Donbass region, very important in terms of coal reserves in Ukraine. So this is correct. Kuril Islands, dispute between Russia and South Korea. अब ये भी incorrect है. It is basically between Russia and Japan. Kuril Islands, along the Pacific Rim of Fire, connecting Kamchatka Peninsula to the north in Russia, and we can say northern island of Japan. So this is incorrect. Only one pair is correctly matched here. A is the correct answer. All right. So about Greenland. So Greenland is in news. US is trying to acquire Greenland from the Denmark. So that's why we are covering the basics here. It is considered as world's largest island. This is true. Area wise largest island हम बोल सकते हैं. Don't get confused with Australia. It is continent. हम ऐसे बोल सकते हैं. Antarctic, Australia are continents. So island is different, we can say. So first is correct. It lies completely within the Arctic Circle. Now this is incorrect. About 2/3 of its area lies in Arctic Circle. So completely नहीं है. It is closer to New York than the Denmark. Yes, that is true. We can say it is part of North American tectonic plate and near to New York than as compared to, let's say, Denmark or its capital. So this one is correct. So 1 and 3 only is the correct answer. D is the correct answer. Okay, D is the correct answer. So these are the geography questions. Next we will discuss the environment section. All right, let's discuss the environment and ecology section of AIPMT 4. One by one we will discuss all these questions. We have tried to bring different kinds of questions and framing also, you will see while we are discussing this. Let's discuss the first question with reference to biodiversity cold spots. So generally we remember the biodiversity hotspots, not about the cold spots. We tend to ignore it. So they are the regions with relatively low species richness. So we can understand relatively, it is talking relatively especially to hotspots, biodiversity hotspot. That is correct, we can say that. They may support highly endemic, let's say highly specialized or endemic species. So this is, we can say that correct statement. They may have the highly endemic, let's say, species located in those cold spots. They are prioritized globally for conservation funding over biodiversity hotspot. Now this is incorrect, rather it is a weakness that most of the funding is prioritized for conservation of biodiversity hotspots and not the cold spots. And arid and high altitude ecosystems can fall under this category. This is, we can say that correct, high altitude cold spots में आ सकता है. तो कौन सा correct है इसमें? Only 3, that is C is the correct answer. All right, moving on to next. Regarding coral reef systems and coral bleaching phenomenon, coral bleaching primarily results from breakdown of symbiotic relation between coral and the zooxanthellae like dinoflagellates due to thermal stress. Yes, primary reason is that is true. Bleached coral invariably die because of loss of symbiotic relation, halting their calcification process. Invariably die मतलब हर बार bleaching होता है तो सब corals मरते हैं, ऐसा नहीं है. Rather, if it is a temporary phenomenon, the coral bleaching, then it may not always result into coral death. Rather, they may reacquire the zooxanthellae quickly and the colorful, let's say, pigmentations also. So bleaching of corals, if it is long-term phenomenon, then the corals may die. So this is incorrect. Increased sea surface temperature, ocean acidification, high irradiance, they act as, we can say that, a trigger for coral bleaching event. This is correct. Coral reef distribution is strictly confined to equatorial waters because reef building corals cannot tolerate seasonal temperature variability that is there in the higher latitude, but this is incorrect, right? It is not strictly confined to the equatorial or tropical waters. There are cold water let's say corals also, ठीक है? तो ये जो absolute statement है, extreme statement, उसको incorrect कर सकते हैं हम. 1 and 3 only, that is again C is the correct answer. Then last year in prelims there was similar question, distributed energy sources. It is very much in news, so we are again covering with different kinds of sources mentioned here. So distributed energy sources are those sources which are, let's say, not directly connected to main grid or national grid, we can say that. So small wind turbines installed at households, yes, it is distributed, not connected directly mostly to the main grid. Community based micro hydro projects, it is also there. Rooftop solar photo, ये तो पिछले साल के क्वेश्चन में भी था, photovoltaic units, rooftop वाला. Grid scale coal fired power plant. Now this is not distributed energy resource, rather it is concentrated and directly connected to the national grid, we can say integrated with national grid. So only 3, again C is the correct answer here. How many of the above belong to the family Fabaceae or pea family? Most of the pea family, let's say crops or plants, they are legume or leguminous in nature. From that logic also you can eliminate the mustard, it is not leguminous and not part of Fabaceae, we can say family. Others, yes, groundnut is there, horse gram is there, soybean is there. So only 3 is the correct answer, C is the correct answer. ठीक है, तो all 4 of these questions are having C answer, तो ये एक trend भी बन हो सकता है ऐसे. Then grasslands are ecosystem dominated by grasses with few trees usually found in the regions with moderate rainfall. This is correct. So in 3 statement type of questions, I told you the logic is first statement is always correct based on the option framing. So that is true. Grasslands support large herbivores like bison, antelope, elephants. This is also true. If you see the big game countries like Kenya, Tanzania, those are the grasslands, tropical grasslands or savanna grasslands. There you see the more number of herbivores and they do not allow the grasses to succeed ecologically into the trees. ठीक है, हर साल नया ग्रास आता है उसको पूरे खा लेते हैं सारे जो herbivores होते हैं, तो इसलिए जो है वो उनका ecological succession हुआ नहीं है into trees, ऐसे हम बोल सकते हैं. तो this is true and this is explaining the statement 1. Look at the third statement, grasslands help in carbon sequestration and prevent soil erosion. Now this is the property or characteristics of grassland, but it is not explaining the statement 1. So this is correct but not explaining the statement 1. So that's why answer will be both statement 2 and 3 are correct, but only one of them is explaining the statement 1. So B is the correct answer. Yes, best describe an ecosystem. The question from the basic and very simple, straightforward. अगर ये 100 में से ये क्वेश्चन अगर आपका गलत होता है तो थोड़ा सा आपका बेसिक्स जो है वो गड़बड़ा हुआ है. यू नीड टू गो थ्रू बेसिक्स, रीड द एनसीईआरटीज, राइट. सो इकोसिस्टम्स को डिस्क्राइब करना है. इट इज़ अ फंक्शनल यूनिट, वी कैन से दैट, ऑफ बायोम, we can say that consisting of living organisms and the physical factors interacting through energy flow and nutrient cycling, which are the functions of ecosystem. So we can say C is the correct answer. ठीक है, C is the correct answer. It is a definition of ecosystem, we can say. Then regarding the Kyoto Protocol, so it was first in Kyoto Protocol, we can say that 1997 में हुआ था finalized. It is very important, let's say, protocol under the UNFCCC, United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. It was the first international treaty with legally binding targets reducing greenhouse gases. This is correct. So under this protocol there was Annex 1, Annex 2 and non-annexure countries. Annex 1 countries, Annex 2 countries especially had the binding norms for emissions targeting, and the non-annexure countries had developing and underdeveloped countries like India, China. So they did not have any kind of binding norms. So only developed countries were having binding norms. This is correct. Developing countries were required to reduce emissions proportionally to their economic growth. Now this is incorrect. ऐसा कोई binding conditions उसमें था नहीं, ठीक है, तो required to reduce ऐसा कुछ था नहीं. So 1 and 2 only is the correct answer. Then further, all right, the list is biofuel type and feedstock or characteristic. Bioethanol, we know that bioethanol is generally produced from the crops like sugar or starch based crops like sugarcane and maize. Similarly, बायोडीजल ऑयल क्रॉप्स डायरेक्टली लिखा हुआ है जेट्रोपा और लेट्स से यूज्ड कुकिंग ऑयल जिसको हम बोलते हैं रिफ्यूज डिराइव फ्यूल, तो बायोडीजल उससे बनता है। देन ए का 4 है, यहाँ से ही आपको पकड़ में आ जाना चाहिए। बी का 3 है, तो आंसर इज बी हियर। बायोगैस अनएरोबिक डाइजेशन ऑफ ऑर्गेनिक वेस्ट, सेकंड जनरेशन जो है हम बोल सकते हैं कि नॉन फूड क्रॉप्स लाइक क्रॉप रेसिड्यू, फूड वेस्ट, हाँ वुड वेस्ट, फूड वेस्ट सारा उसमें आ जाएगा, ठीक है। तो बी इज द करेक्ट आंसर हियर, वेरी सिंपल। नाउ regarding global warming, the natural greenhouse effect keeps the earth's surface warm enough to sustain life. This is correct. Atmosphere has greenhouse gases like carbon dioxide, nitrous oxide, or we can say that even methane. So they are keeping our earth warm. Without them, the earth would have been much more, let's say, cold than the, or we can say 0 degree Celsius sub-zero temp. इसी साल एक क्वेश्चन आया था प्रीलिम्स में regarding this. Human activities increase the levels of CO2, methane, and nitrous oxide intensification. This is correct. These are global, we can say greenhouse gases contributing to global warming. Water vapor is not considered as greenhouse gas because it is not contributing to global warming. This is incorrect. Rather, it is considered as greenhouse gas. It has, let's say, unique property. It absorbs both incoming solar radiations, which are short wave, let's say, radiations coming from the sun, and also the long wave terrestrial radiations, that are infrared radiations, they are absorbed. So it is basically resulting into global warming. ये गलत है, 1 and 2 only is the correct, A is the correct answer. All right, now again the basics from NCERT correctly represents the energy flow in the forest based detritus food chain. तो detritus food chain में पहले leaf litter आएगा, right, then fungi, then earthworm is eating fungi, then earthworm is being eaten by the lizard, then lizard is being eaten by the snake, then a snake is eaten by the hawks. One can use the logic and mark this correct. Again हम बोल सकते हैं कि वो क्वेश्चन इकोसिस्टम के बाद ये सबसे इजी क्वेश्चन होगा आपके लिए। ये भी इजी क्वेश्चन है, या स्विच ऑफ द फॉलोइंग एक्वेटिक स्पेसीज ऑफ इंडिया आर इन्वेजिव एंड डिसरप्ट नेटिव। तो इन्वेजिव स्पेसीज हम देखते हैं न्यूज में भी, it is the water hyacinth. Most of the water bodies are, let's say, in India contaminated with this invasive species water hyacinth, ठीक है, तो you can easily mark that answer. Now wetlands are considered most, let's say, where water is present either permanently or seasonally, supporting the distinct plants and animals adapted to water saturated soils. This is correct. 3 statements है, first statement is correct. Wetlands acts as a natural water purifier and help in flood control. Now this is the characteristics. Whether it is explaining the statement 1? No. Look at the third statement. Wetlands are primary habitat for migratory birds and aquatic biodiversity. So they are supporting distinct plants and animals. So yes, third statement is correct and correctly explaining. So we can say that B is the correct answer. Again, both 2 and 3 are correct, but only one of them is explaining statement 1. Now regarding the irrigation, innovative water management techniques, drip irrigation delivers water directly to the root zone, reducing evaporation and runoff. This is correct. Micro irrigation के type है. Sprinkler irrigation is much more, let's say, more water efficient than the drip irrigation for all crops and soil. Now this is incorrect, right? Rather it is less efficient than the drip irrigation. Drip irrigation is much more efficient, even more, about 90% of the water conservation is, let's say, there in the drip irrigation. So this is incorrect. Mulching helps retain soil moisture and reduces weed growth. This is correct. Basic NCERT. Mulching is basically spreading, we can say that, all the crop residue and leaf litter in between the crop furrows, we can say that, so that whatever the water irrigation that we are giving, that is conserved, as well as the soil is conserved, soil moisture and soil, we can say, and it reduces the weed growth also, because that all area is covered by this litter. So we can say 1 and 3 only is the correct answer. C is the correct answer. 1 and 3 only. All right. In the context of cyclone mitigation along India's east coast, mangrove ecosystem are considered crucial. This is correct. How do mangroves help in reducing cyclone and storm surge damage? Again, we can say simple one. Basically, their dense root system reduce the wave energy and slow water flow, lowering the storm surge height. So D is the correct answer, we can say that. So strong roots, they will obstruct these waves and dampen them, ठीक है, तो उनकी energy कम कर देता है, and that's why whatever the destruction that may occur in the coastal areas, it is reduced. Alright, species and their habitat. It is again unique kind of question. Nilgiri Thar, we know that they are found in Western Ghats, especially in Nilgiris. We can say that. So this is A is second. ठीक है, यहाँ पे है हम बोल सकते हैं. Then Hulok gibbon, we know that it is found in northeast, especially in Assam. So यहाँ पे भी 3 है. Okay. Then Indian pangolin, most of it is found in grassland, scrubland. So D is the one, we can say that. So यहाँ पे आंसर आ गया आपको. C is the 4, Gwar, Sikkim, Himachal Pradesh, Western Ghats. Alright, so A is the correct answer here. Fine. So these are the environment related questions, and the remaining questions and different subjects will be covered by different faculties, other faculties. Alright, keep solving these AIPMTs, and if you have any question you can ask in the comment box.
Hello everyone. Let us begin the discussion for the polity section of AIPMT paper 4, right? So the questions for polity section are 21 to 25 and 76 to 85, right? Let us begin one by one. Consider the following statements regarding the grant of bail under the PMLA. Right. The right to a speedy trial under Article 21 of the Constitution can be curtailed in cases involving serious economic offences. So it cannot be curtailed because fundamental right to a speedy trial gets precedence over the gravity of offences, right? So first statement is incorrect. The prolonged incarceration of an under trial without commencement or reasonable progress of trial amounts to converting pre-trial detention into a form of punishment. Yes, that was the opinion that was said by the Supreme Court when they granted bail in cases where the cases were not filed, where the trial did not begin for a very long period of time, but the alleged offenders were put behind the bars or were in detention for a very, very long time, which actually amounted to a punishment, a form of punishment. The statutory restrictions on bail and pre-trial detention under special laws like PMLA are not against Article 21, even if the trial is unlikely to conclude within a reasonable time. Right. So this is incorrect. So they are not against the Article 21. Up until there the statement is correct. But the trial needs to be in progress, or the trial must begin within a reasonable time, or else it might amount to a form of punishment, right? So first and third statements are incorrect. Second statement is correct. Which of the following statements given above are correct? A, only 2. Only the second statement is correct, right? Next. With reference to the Unlawful Activities Prevention Act, UAPA, consider the following statements. A terrorist act, as defined under the provisions of UAPA, is limited only to the use of conventional weapons such as bombs, explosives, and firearms. A terrorist act can include acts that disrupt essential supplies or services, even if no conventional violence is involved. So only the second statement is correct, because the provisions of terrorist act, the provisions under the UAPA which defines the terrorist act under the section 15 of the law, it essentially says that even if there is no use of conventional weapons, bombs, explosives, or firearms, but it amounts to the disruption of public safety, peace, harmony, and even the essential supplies and services, then it can be termed as a terrorist act. Now, that was said in context of use of hate speeches, in context of use of online propagation of unwarranted opinions and all those things, right? So second statement is correct. Right answer is option B, 2 only. With reference to the maintainability of habeas corpus petitions, after the rejection of bail application, consider the following statements. It says, under the Indian law, a writ of habeas corpus can be entertained to secure the release of an accused whose bail pleas have been dismissed by the competent courts. Now, if the bail pleas have been dismissed or refused by the competent courts, it amounts that there has been a trial and there, according to law, the detention is mandated, or the detention is given, the punishment of detention is given to the accused based on the law and the trial. So, habeas corpus cannot be entertained. Right? The Supreme Court held that detention of an accused in custody pursuant to a valid judicial order is lawful and cannot be challenged as illegal detention by way of habeas corpus. This statement is correct because habeas corpus, a writ petition, can be used only in case of illegal detention, and if the bails are not given to the accused and there is a valid judicial order for the confinement, then it cannot be challenged in terms of illegal detention, right? Habeas corpus is a constitutional remedy meant to protect against unlawful detention and does not provide an alternative to statutory bail remedies, right? Second and third statements are correct. First statement is incorrect because it cannot be entertained. Right answer is option C, 2 and 3 only. Okay. With reference to the doctrine of pleasure, under the Constitution of India, consider the following statements. Civil servants hold office during the pleasure of the president or the governor, but this pleasure is not absolute and is subject to constitutional limits and judicial review. Now, why we say that this statement is correct? Because unlike in the British or UK sense of law or the English law, where the pleasure is absolute, in Indian context, in Indian understanding of the pleasure doctrine, that is not very absolute and is subject to various constitutional limitations as well as other statutory limitations. Now, what are those limitations? Just understand in a sense that any civil servant cannot be dismissed or cannot be suspended for reasons which is beyond the law or which are not defined under the law, or if the whole process of investigation is not complete, so they cannot be dismissed. So that means that even if they hold a post according to the pleasure of doctrine, their tenure, their service conditions, etc. are what we say, they are protected by the constitution itself. Hence, the pleasure doctrine is not absolute in Indian understanding of the doctrine, right? Second, constitution contains safeguards to the doctrine of pleasure by providing that no civil servant can be dismissed or removed without due process except in specific exceptional cases, right? So yes, no civil servant can be dismissed. This statement is also correct when we talk about the service rules, when we talk about the protections as provided under Article 311 of the Constitution of India. So they cannot be dismissed and they have the constitutional safeguards for the doctrine of pleasure. The doctrine applies equally to all constitutional functionaries, including judges of the Supreme Court and the High Courts. No, the doctrine does not hold equally good for all the constitutional functionaries, be it CAG, be it Election Commissioner of India, or be it the judges of the Supreme Court or the High Court. though they are protected, but the doctrine of pleasure applies differently in different situations because they are removed from the post through a different process, right? And they are excluded. That means that even if there is a crime or there is an allegation against them, they cannot be removed arbitrarily by the president or the governor, but there is a procedure to be followed for that sense, right? So, third statement is incorrect. The right answer is option A, 1 and 2 only. With reference to the Information Technology Act 2000, consider the following statements. The central government can direct blocking of access to any information on the internet only if it directly threatens sovereignty, security or the public order of the country. It empowers the central government to issue blocking directions not only to government agencies but also to private intermediaries such as internet service providers and online platforms, subject to prescribed procedures and safeguards. Right, understand that second statement is correct, which is our general understanding, but first statement is incorrect for the term only. Even if it threatens indirectly, even if it is against the what we say, the ideas or the notions of upholding the constitutional provisions, then also it can be done. Right, so first statement is incorrect, second statement is correct. The right answer is option B, 2 only. Right, next. With reference to the mission for Atmanirbharta in pulses, consider the following statements. The mission is approved to be implemented over a 6 period. Under the mission, 100% procurement of all pulses is guaranteed at MSP. The mission includes development of post-harvest infrastructure, including support for around 1,000 processing and packaging units with subsidy. It promotes area expansion of pulses, including targeting rice, fallow lands and distribution of improved seeds, seed kits to farmers. Now, this is a question related to the current affairs. Now, all the schemes, policies or any other initiatives taken by the government becomes important for us to know at least the basics of those schemes or initiatives by the government. So, third statement given here is incorrect because it does not guarantee all the pulses. Now, if you cannot recall the complete or the accurate provisions of the scheme or any such program, we can understand this only by elimination method also, right. So, government will never allow the procurement of all the pulses or is not always of the opinion to procure all the pulses. So, second statement, if eliminated by the common sense only, then we are left with only one option, option B, right. So, all the three other statements are correct. That way also we can solve this question just in case you feel like attempting such kind of questions. Always remember that extreme statements are usually incorrect, but we cannot stick to such kind of opinions. First, second is be updated with most recent schemes and policies. Either they are related to women empowerment, child protections and farmers, education, artificial intelligence. So, these are the most talked about contemporary topics and they can be asked in one way or the other. Prepare them, right. Next question. So, the right answer is option B, 1, 3 and 4 only. With reference to the Aspirational Agricultural Districts Initiative in India, consider the following statements. The 100 aspirational agricultural districts have been identified under the Pradhan Mantri Dhan Dhanya Krishi Yojana to enhance agricultural productivity and allied activities in underperforming regions. Second, these districts were selected based on 3 key criteria: low agricultural productivity, moderate crop intensity, and below average access to agricultural credit. Each aspirational agricultural district receives a distinct budgetary allocation separate from other central agricultural schemes for focused development. Now, once we read about this scheme, we get to know that there is no separate allocation of budgets for this particular scheme. Rather, different other schemes by various ministries and departments are brought under this umbrella of Aspirational Agricultural Districts Initiative, where they streamline all the efforts made by the different ministries and departments, right? So, third statement is incorrect. How many statements are correct? 2 only, 1 and 2. The right answer is option B, only 2. Next. With reference to PM Gati Shakti offshore, consider the following statements. It is an initiative under PM Gati Shakti National Master Plan launched by Department for Promotion of Industry and Internal Trade. The initiative aims to digitally integrate planning and management of offshore infrastructure, promote blue economy, and support sustainable coastal development and green energy. So, are these 4 initiatives, are these the 4 aims under the initiative? Though the term offshore, you might get confused about the sustainable coastal development and green energy, though the statement is correct. Both the statements are correct, right? So, the right answer is option C, both 1 and 2. Next. With reference to the Yuva Sangam initiative of the Government of India, consider the following statements. It is an initiative launched under the Ek Bharat Shresth Bharat EBS program to strengthen people-to-people connections among the youth of different states and union territories. The initiative focuses on exposure tours of youth across paired states and UTs with multi-dimensional engagement under the themes such as tourism, traditions, development, people-to-people connect, and technology. Now, once we understand that once we get to know about the Yuva Sangam initiative, we will get to know about the 5 Ps. What were those 5 Ps? Paryatan, Parampara, Pragati, Paraspar Sampark, and Pradyogiki. So, those were the 5 P ideas. And it is just telling about that, like Paryatan is tourism, and Parampara is traditions, Pragati is development, Paraspar Sampark is people to people connect, and Pradyogiki is technology. So, those are the 5 pillars of Yuva Sangam initiative, right? Participation in Yuva Sangam is limited only to the students enrolled in higher education institutes. So, that is incorrect. It allows not just the students, but every youth between the age bracket of 18 to 30 years of age, they can get themselves enrolled and be part of that Yuva Sangam initiative. So, only first and second statement are correct, and we can say option B, 1 and 2 only is the right answer. Right. In coordination along with the Ministry of Education, which entity leads the implementation of SOAR, that is skilling for AI readiness programs? So, we know this is a very factual and very simple question, that Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship is in coordination with Ministry of Education to implement the SWAR program, right. Next. Consider the following statements regarding the preamble to the Constitution of India, right. The preamble is based on the objectives resolution which was drafted and moved by Jawaharlal Nehru, that is correct. In Keshwanand Bharti case, the Supreme Court held that the preamble is part of the Constitution and can be amended subject to the basic structure doctrine. The terms socialist and secular were added later through the 42nd Amendment in 1976 and were not part of the original preamble. All the three statements are correct. Very fundamental question. Right answer is option D, 1, 2 and 3. Right. Next. Consider the following statements regarding the effects of proclamation of national emergency under the Indian Constitution. The Parliament is empowered to legislate on any subject in the state list. That is correct. The executive power of the Union extends to directing any state on how its executive powers should be exercised. The term of the Lok Sabha can be extended by the Parliament for 1 year at a time. And this extension can be repeated if the emergency continues. This statement is also correct. The President can issue orders modifying the distribution of revenues between the center and the state. So, all the 4 statements are correct. The right answer is option D, all 4. Which of the following is not a mechanism of direct democracy? Referendum, initiative, plebiscite and elections. Now, we are familiar with all these 4 terms and we need to analyze, we need to see which of the following terms is not a mechanism of direct democracy. Referendum. Citizens or the people of that area, particular locality or on a nationwide scale, they vote directly on any issue or any question of law or on any question where a decision is to be made by the policy makers. So, that is a form of direct democracy. Initiative. People initiate the law making process by suggesting what kind of laws should be made or what should be the provisions of any particular law. In that sense also, it can be termed as what we say mechanism of direct democracy. Plebiscite. Now, plebiscite is something where the citizens vote directly not for the members but on the core issue of debate, which is a political topic or a law making topic or any other consideration of that sense. Elections. People vote to choose their representatives, not just about the laws or a law making process or any question of law or to suggest something for the law making initiatives, right. So, people choose the representatives in the election process which are mandated to represent the citizens, and then those are empowered to make laws, to make schemes and policies, to come up with different initiatives on behalf of the people. So, elections is not a form of direct democracy, right. The right answer is option D. The definition of state under Article 12 of the Constitution of India is significant because it explains the procedure for amending the Constitution. Incorrect. It defines the powers and functions of the Prime Minister of India. Incorrect. It lays down the distribution of legislative powers between the Union and the states. That is also not about the Article 12. Incorrect. Now, it determines the scope of enforcement of fundamental rights against the authorities. Now, fundamental rights are enforceable against most of the fundamental rights are enforceable against any acts of the legislature or the executive, or yes, the executive, right. So, Article 12, once it defines the state, then the fundamental rights mentioned hereafter can be enforced against the state. Now, the state under Article 12 does not only contain about the what we say, the government or the parliament, the state governments or the state legislatures or the state machineries. Rather, it also includes the organizations or the groups which are mandated to function as a state. That is the beauty or the utility of defining the state under Article 12, so that the judiciary or the law enforcement agencies know about what the state is. Though the law enforcement agencies themselves are the state, but if the fundamental rights are violated, fundamental rights as mentioned under Article 14, 19, 21, 22, etc., if those are violated by the state, or even in some certain cases by the private individuals, then the state, the definition of a state becomes handy. So, the most appropriate explanation of the given question statement is option D. It determines the scope of enforcement of fundamental rights against the authorities. Consider the following statements about the procedures in the Parliament of India. The power of adjournment sine die lies with the presiding officer. That is correct. Prorogation does not affect the bills pending before the House. The Speaker can prorogue the Lok Sabha while in session. So, the third statement is incorrect. So, only the President can prorogue the Lok Sabha or the House of the Parliament. Right? First and second statements are correct. The right answer is option B, 1 and 2 only. Right. So, that is all for the polity section. Right. Most of the questions were easy. Few of the questions, scheme based questions, you might find them factual and difficult, but that is the idea through the test series, that you get to know what all things are important for the actual examination and where you lack in your preparation strategy. I just hope that most of the questions from the static part or the fundamental part towards the later sections of the polity section, you attempted them correct. Few of the questions were also from the current affairs, be it about the UAPA law and Prevention of Money Laundering Act and other things. Update yourself with the current affairs and most recent Supreme Court judgments, and revise the fundamentals properly, basics, and get the conceptual clarity. Just in case you are missing out on some concepts, feel free to ask them. Just revise. It's high time. We are talking about the AIPMT 4 towards the end of the January month. We are left with just 3-4 months for our preparation and revision. Just be more confident about it. Whatever you know, just revise it properly. Whatever you know, update and enrich them properly for both for the prelims as well as mains examination. Keep an eye for the most recent government initiatives. Now that we will also be seeing the budget and economic survey in upcoming week, we will also try to find few of the important things for our examination from those aspects also, from those resources also. And up until then, we meet next time. Thank you, good luck, study well, revise well, be confident enough, and good luck. Thank you.
Hello and welcome to the discussion of AIPMT 4 for the current affairs sections which were asked in this particular test. So quickly we will see the questions. So the first question was question number 36. We will see the question and the explanation to it. So the first question was about ring nebula. The name is M57. It is a planetary nebula, obviously nebula, located in the Lyra constellation about 2300 light years away. A factual statement. So, in this type of question, you need to play with your gut. You need to find out whether these statements are in sync with the concepts that you know in science and tech or not. So, its characteristic ring-like structure is formed by gas and dust expelled from a dying star, obviously nebula, it is a nebula, so it is all about a gas, a ball of gas and dust, it is also correct. The central star is extremely hot, providing energy to ionize the surrounding gas. Obviously, because of high temperature, the nearby gas gets ionized and turned into plasma. This is also correct. Its shape is caused by gravitational pull of nearby stars. This is incorrect. Whenever a nebula, kind of any structure of nebula is created, it is all because of their intrinsic property, intrinsic energy which gets confined and a shape is formed, and that is why this statement is incorrect. So, 1, 2 and 3 are correct. A is the correct answer for question number 36. Question 37. So, this is a particular site and why this site is significant. So, first is Sitana Vasal. So, this site is early Jan rock cut cave with mural paintings. So, first A is 2. Udayagiri, this is a very famous, we know that this is a Neolithic burial site with megaliths in Iron Age, basically 10th century BC. Mahabalipuram, it is Pallava period rock cut temple and sculpture. This is also, I guess, in UNESCO either tentative world heritage list of world heritage site or they are a part of world heritage site. You need to get it checked. And Adi Chanalur, this is bronze age burial urn and skeletal remains. So, this is first, this is third only and this is fourth. So, 2, 1, 3, 4. C is the correct answer for question number 37. Going to question number 38. Kashi Tamil Sangamam 4.0. Obviously, this is all because of Tamil. Karpum, let's learn Tamil. So, the theme was let's learn Tamil. So, now if Tamil Sangam is being obviously organized, you could have eliminated with this statement. The initiative was organized by Ministry of Culture as well as Ministry of Education, but the aim was promoting Tamil, not Sanskrit. Obviously, in this era of language debate, imposition of Hindi and the idea behind North and South debate related to language, how can central ministry would be organizing something to promote a language which is not native to a particular place. So, that is why you could have eliminated this particular statement. 4 is incorrect, all the 3 statements are correct. The sage Agastya vehicle expenditure save retraces the ancient civilizational route from Tenkasi to Kashi. The program Tamil Karakalam introduces Tamil learning in select Varanasi schools. 1, 2 and 3 are correct. Out of 4 statements, 3 are correct. C is the correct answer for question number 38. Question number 39. It is already written, you could have eliminated again. It is already written that habitat fragmentation due to roads, rail, urban expansion is a major cause of human wildlife conflict. What happens that this is a particular area, a particular protected area, a forest. Whenever a road gets created, it basically bifurcates the whole area into 2 specific parts and interaction gets, you can say, restricted, and because of this what happens that it increases the case of human wildlife conflict, like elephant coming onto the roads. There are cases of vehicle getting collided with many other specific animals. So, these are kind of because of habitat fragmentation, because of all these infrastructural development. This is a correct statement. But statement 2 is talking about another specific part, and you could have said it that okay, A is not the correct answer because second statement is not actually explaining first. However, second statement itself is incorrect because overhunting of herbivores by local community is a primary Driver of human wildlife conflict in India, this is incorrect. This could be one of the reasons, but not the primary reason. Primary reason is natural disaster. It could be natural disaster, landslides, or modification of topography because of many other agents of denudation. But the major reason is expansion of urban settlements, infrastructural development like roads, bridges, etc. So second is incorrect. So C becomes the correct answer. First is correct and second is incorrect. 40th question. So now islands of Lakshadweep. So Bitra Island is the smallest inhabited island of the Union Territory. Obviously this is correct. It belongs to Amandevi group of islands. Lakshadweep, Amandevi, these are certain group of islands where these coral reef islands are specifically located, and it is located in Arabian Sea. A specific Indian Ocean. Bay of Bengal, it is Andaman and Nicobar, not Lakshadweep. So this is incorrect. 1 and 2 are only correct. B is the correct answer for question number 40. Going to question number 86. So Tons River, often in news for flooding and irrigation, it is a tributary of Ganga flowing through Madhya Pradesh and Uttar Pradesh. 86, A is the correct answer. Going for 87th question. Now this is talking about GLP, glucagon like peptide. So it is talking about is correct. So when we say correct, GLP enhances insulin secretion because it is obviously glucagon, glucose dependent manner. This is correct. They are part of incretin based therapies and used in diabetes management. This is also because of insulin sensitivity, how to regulate the secretion of insulin. This is a part of diabetes management planning. They accelerate emptying, helping in gastric emptying and helping in satiety and weight loss. Now this is a common sense. If your metabolism gets faster, if your whole viscera or whole gastric body part gets emptied faster, will you be hungry more or will you feel satiated more? It's all about, it's a common sense that if it gets emptied faster, you will feel hungry more. It slows down hunger because it slows down gastric emptying. Your stomach feels more full for a longer period of time rather than getting emptied and again feeling of hunger pangs again cropping up. So that is why this is incorrect. Some GLP drugs are approved for obesity management even in non-diabetic individuals. This is correct because of, we know that Ozempic is becoming a new kind of a go-to drug for very quick fat loss, quick weight loss program. There are many obesity management pills which are being there. So this is why this question has been put. So 1, 2 and 4 are correct. B is the correct answer for question number 87. Question number 88, a common question. We need to know about certain important military exercises and important nations with which we conduct those exercises. So Yuddha Abhyas, we need to know it is United States of America. Japan, technically it is more related with the Operation Malabar. It is military exercises, naval exercise of Malabar. Australia, OSDEX. South Korea is something different, but this Yuddha Abhyas is USA. 89th question. India 2025 nuclear energy mission. The nuclear energy mission strives to make sure that India's nuclear energy output quadruples in the next 7 to 8 years by 2023, currently being 8 gigawatt of the total output that is getting generated out of all the energy mixes. Nuclear energy contributes 8 gigawatt. The idea is to make it 4 times to 32 to 33 gigawatt by 2030 to 2033. Okay. Now it aims to increase nuclear power generation, a capacity to meet growing electricity demand and reduce fossil fuel dependence, because this is non-fossil fuel. This is clean but may not be renewable. This is non-conventional but that is not renewable. However, this is clean source of energy which is not emitting any carbon, non-fossil based. So first statement is correct. It focuses exclusively on thorium based reactor. Have we made any thorium based reactor currently? No, we are still in prototype stage of fast breed reactor where sufficient plutonium would be generated out of uranium 238. Still we are not going into thorium based reactors, or if there is some particular reactor, these are all under experimental stages. There is no commercial utilization of those thorium based reactors. This is incorrect. We need to know about the 3-stage nuclear program where the 3rd stage would be exclusively employing thorium as nuclear fuel input, but still we are far behind that particular thing. So, second statement is incorrect. The mission includes development of fast breeder reactor and pressurized heavy water reactors. This is correct. It is a part of India's strategy to achieve net zero emissions by 2050, although we have committed by 2070 in climate UN FCC certain COP, one of the conference of parties, but still we want to expedite it by 2050. But there is no binding commitment that we need to expedite it by 2050. It's all our voluntary contributions, voluntary commitments. By binding agreements is till 2070 for India. So, net zero 1, 3, 4 are correct. C is the correct answer for question number 89. Question number 90. Unified Payment Interface UPI has recently been recognized internationally for facilitating real-time retail transaction at global scale. So, we have many other digital payment system, NEFT, RTGS and IMPS. UPI is being accepted at a global scale. We have partnered with many other similar payment system network, fast payment system networks of many other countries. So, question number 91, consider the following statements about Turner Prize. So, it is one of the most prestigious awards for contemporary art in UK. This is correct. Only artists which are British citizens or PR, but permanent residents of UK are allowed. This is correct. Nenna Kalu is recognized as the first artist with a learning disability to be nominated also and winner also. Obviously, if they are winner, they are nominated. So, this becomes incorrect. The award is presented annually with a cash prize. This is correct. 1, 2 and 4 are correct. A is the correct answer for question number 91. Question number 92. Consider the following statements regarding nanobots in cancer therapy. So, they have allowed targeted drug delivery obviously at tumor size. They are so small, nanoscale 10 to the power 9 minus 9 meter. So, they can specifically target those tumor cells which are getting affected. They can be externally guided using magnetic or acoustic fields. So, they can move in a specific manner. There is a science behind this. There is Lorentz field which are created because of electromagnetic induction. And this is how they are precisely maneuvered to specific locations. They rely on fully autonomous self-propulsion and AI-based decision making for routine human treatments. Still, this is not allowed. Autonomous surgery, autonomous nanobot-based surgery, where you see in sci-fi movies that nanobots are being ingested via pills, and they go to specific locations where the tumors or any cancerous things are there, and they do all the operations or surgeries whatsoever is required on their own or any targeted drug delivery. But these are all still under experimental or under you can say concept stage. Still all these nanobots, if they are being used through physical or human intervention without any artificial or autonomous guiding. 1 and 2 are only correct. A is the correct answer. 93. So, Constitution of India was released in Santali language for all Chiki. So, this was the script. So, Santali language uses Owl Chiki script for the constitution to be drafted. 94th question regarding the INS Arihant. INS Arihant is a nuclear submarine, SSMB, ballistic missile but nuclear powered. So, it is capable of launching nuclear tipped ballistic missiles. This is correct. It is a fast track diesel electric submarine. No, this is nuclear powered. It contributes to India's second strike nuclear capability. This is correct. Basically, this is retaliation. Second strike capability means suppose any nuclear in any unforeseen circumstance there is a nuclear attack or any missile attack, then they can absorb those attacks. They can neutralize those attacks and then they can launch their retaliatory attack from the nuclear submarine. This is the second strike capability through INS Arihant. 1 and 3rd are correct. C is the correct answer for question number 94. And the last question from the current affairs section was, Kessler syndrome is best described as self-sustaining chain reaction in which collisions between space objects generate debris that can increase the probability of further collisions. Basically, this is related to space situational awareness, SSA. So, Kessler syndrome says that if there is any move, so they orbit all the satellites, whether they are active or dormant, whether they are defunct satellites, they are still orbiting, and there are small space debris which are also orbiting. We need to have specific knowledge about their locations. But if any commotion, any collision happens, that would trigger a chain reaction where multiple collisions would happen, and that would lead to hampering of all our satellite communication whatsoever we have. All those active satellites, they may also get damaged, and this kind of thing is being pegged by a term known as Kessler syndrome. Okay, so that constitutes all the questions which were asked from the current affairs section for the AIPMT 4. Thank you. Hello and welcome to a discussion of the questions from the economy sections for AIPMT 4. So, the paper started with the economy sections. So, the questions were question number 1 to 5 and question 61 to 70. We will see the questions and also have detailed discussion on the correct explanation. Okay, so the first question was question number 1 obviously. So, this is a recently approved export promotion mission. Basically, this is consolidation of all schemes. Consolidated scheme. We know that the world has entered a phase of deglobalization, fragmented supply chain, people or the countries are inward looking. In that scenario, how India would be maneuvering its exports, because we have a target of 1 trillion USD worth of exports. In the current foreign trade policy, we expect 1 trillion worth of merchandise exports, and in that case we know that MSME has a huge role to play, and because MSME is quite fragmented, so a support scheme worth more than 25,000 crores has been announced in December only 2025. So, that is consolidation of many of the schemes which are running currently. So, the timeline for the mission would be 6 years till 2031. So, this is correct. It will facilitate access to affordable trade finances like trade credits, any branding, any related associated with the cost associated with facilitation of trade, merchandise trades. Basically, we are talking about facilitating affordable trade finances for MSMEs, because we know that 45% of the exports are, if you talk about the 45% of the exports volume, they are being made by MSMEs. So, they are an important cog in the wheel. So, we need to have a good look and also have good facilitation for MSME. This is correct. Priority support will be extended to sectors impacted by recent global tariff escalation. We have seen how United States of America have started this tariff war. Even Mexico has talked about imposing tariff on Indian goods, and there are certain possibilities that this may create a Pandora box where many other countries would be creating a smaller group, a regional grouping, and it would create stiffness in supply chain. How the world was globalizing till 2018, this would be more inward looking post COVID era, where the countries would be calling back their supply chain resources back into their territories. So, 1, 2, 3, all the statements are correct. D is the correct answer for question number 1. Question number 2, with reference to status of manufacturing sector. So, manufacturing sectors accounts for about 17%, this is correct. India's GDP in real terms. This is correct. Nominal terms it's 14 to 15%, but still it is considered to be 16 to 17%. And the idea is we need to increase it to 25% of total GDP. India is the world's second largest mobile phone manufacturer. This is correct. This is the achievement in the last 10 years that we have seen. From being a net mobile phone importer, we are one of the largest exporters of mobile phone, only behind China. This is correct. The manufacturing sector in India employs more than 15 crore? No. About 5 to 6 crore. Formal and informal taken together. 1 and 2 are only correct. A is the correct answer for question number 2. Code on wages. So all the codes have been ratified, have been implemented. So the code on wages, the question was asked. So minimum wages will be set up by the central government? No. Minimum wages will be set up by the state government only. Only the idea is the central government would be setting up the floor wage, wherein the minimum wages would not be set by any respective state government below the floor wage. So the floor wage, there are two things. Floor wage means minimum wage, below which it cannot go. And that would be set up by central government. But minimum wages for respective states, because of the cost of living for different states are different, so that would be set up by the respective state governments only. This is incorrect. The code establishes a statutory right to minimum wages for all employees across both organized and unorganized sector. So minimum wages acts were there, but now this has been codified. So violation of this may attract any penal provision. Now, because of being a statutory obligation. So second is only correct. B is the correct answer for question number 3. Question number 4. Which of the following is incorrect? This is incorrect regarding WTO's agreement on fisheries subsidies. Again, this has been recently talked about in the recent meeting. So recognizing developmental needs of poorer nation. Poorer nation means least developed countries or LDCs. This is correct. Allowing subsidies for fishing on high seas. Will WTO allow any subsidies? No. Any subsidies, if whatsoever it is allowed, it would only go to least developed countries. But fishing in high seas, it's generally done by developed economies. We know that the fishing, all the videos that we see that big ships, they are being on a voyage, they go for fishing or tunas and all these things that we hear. It's all done by developed economies, and their subsidies are to be curtailed, not allowed. This is incorrect. And for the question, this is the correct answer because it is asking which is incorrect. B is the correct answer. Question number 5th. So statement 1 says again a conceptual question. Liquidity crisis in bond market increases the yield of the bond. Now what is liquidity crisis? Liquidity crisis is a scenario where suppose many investors have subscribed to bond, they have purchased bond, but now they want to redeem the bond. They want to get their cash back. In case of liquidity crisis, there would be a scenario that there would be more supply of bond rather than demand of bond, and that would mean it would be very difficult to actually sell and get out of those investments and convert it into cash. Why? Because of more supply of bond. Now there the concept is there. More supply of bonds. And if there is more supply of bonds, the price goes down. Obviously, demand and supply metrics of classical economics. And if price goes down, the yield would go up. This is a common notion. Common price and yields are inversely related. If the why price went down? Because of oversupply of bond. And why yield went up? Because the prices of bond, the current market price of bond goes down, and the yield, the current yield for a fresh investor which is buying that bond, because the prices would go down, he or she would feel that they are getting more rather than the fixed coupon prices. Okay, that is a concept. This is correct. Higher supply of bond than its demand reduces bond price. This is correct, and A is the explanation. Why? Because if there is more supply, there would be more pricing pressure. The price would go down. And why the pricing go down? If the price goes down, suppose the bond was issued at 100 rupees, now they are quoting at rupees 95. A 100 rupees bond was giving you 5 rupee coupon per year, but that same 5 rupee coupon that you will be getting on rupees 95 now, because you purchased it in 95 rupees, you will get more return. 5 upon 95 is more than 5 upon 100. So that is why you will get more yield. So A is the correct answer. Question number 61, basic question. Global Innovation Index, innovation means IPR related thing, WIPO, World Intellectual Property Organization, releases this Global Innovation Index. Now again a question of concept basically you need to know this thing. Index of Industrial Production, IIP, is volume based, means what is the quantity of production, no matter what is the final price. So one is quantity, whether you are producing nut or bolt, whether you are producing the fine products. If you are producing more nut and bolt year on year, if the production of nut and bolt increases, you will say that IIP data has increased year on year, because that is volume based product indicator. But annual survey of industry, this is more humongous, this is value based. Whether you are producing raw material, whether you are producing intermediate good, or whether you are producing finished good, which has higher value, finished goods. So no matter IIP may go down, because it would be the volumes may have gone down, but if you have improved the quality of production by producing more finished goods where the values are higher, value addition is higher, then annual survey of industry would say that our manufacturing capabilities has gone up, because it is a value based estimation. So that is why first statement is incorrect. ASI is more comprehensive measure of industrial performance than IIP, because this is including humongous data. One, this is calculating the quality of production rather than the quantity of production. So that is a more comprehensive measure. B is the correct answer for question number 62. 63, central bank of the country, what are the functions? All are the functions, all functions. Clearing house, Central Clearing House Corporation, which is a subsidiary of RBI, does these things, interbank any transactions, publication of economic statistical information, any inflation expectation survey, or there is report about the policies, minutes of monetary policy committee, all these things are published by RBI. Control of credit, obviously through quantitative and qualitative tools, different tools which are at the disposal of RBI, and forex reserves, which is also managed by Reserve Bank of India. All are correct. D is the correct answer for question number 63. 64. So under the definition of securities, securities are tradable commodities. Tradable commodities or instruments, I would say. You can go and trade it, either you can issue it in the primary market, or you can trade it in the secondary market, or it could be over the counter out of the stock exchanges or many of the exchanges that we have. That is also security only. Check is only a payment, sorry, this is a payment instruction, not any. Can you trade this check? No. But there is one trade discounted receipts. Discounted receipts, like that thing is a security. Discounted bill is a security, but check is only a payment facilitation thing. So this is the difference. Debentures, obviously private bonds, they are known as debentures, they are traded in secondary market, in the bond market. Limited partnership interests, these are also traded. Limited partnership interests are also traded just like equity. Bonds, they are also traded commonly. We know that bonds, government bond, government securities, treasury bills, state development loans, these are traded. Demand deposits, again this is stock of money. This is not, this is nothing, this is not traded. Can you trade your savings account with another one? No, it's a stock of money. You hold that particular value of currency. So 2, 3, 4 are only correct. C is the correct answer for question number 64. 65. Now concept based, if SLR is increased, money supply goes down. If money supply goes down, obviously the interest rate may increase because the demand of credit and the supply of liquidity would have a mismatch, there would be more demand, the interest rate may increase, and because of that interest rate increasing, bank would have less fund to lend, this is correct. Foreign institutional investor may come back. Why? Because of interest rate differential. Interest rate differential. Basically, India would be giving more interest rates rather than if they use the same money in their own domestic economy, they will generate less. So, they will come back to India rather than pulling out money from India. So, this is incorrect. Interest rate on loans may increase, obviously that is all at the discretion or the disposal of banks only. The overall supply of money in the economy will decrease short because that is a quantitative tool too, that is a reserve requirement that would have instant, you can say what is the liquidity levels in the economy, that would go down. So, 2, 1, 3 and 4 are correct, B is the correct answer for question number 65. Question number 66, which of the following factors may lead to increase in tax buoyancy? Tax buoyancy is more tax percentage terms year on year upon nominal GDP. If there is more tax collection year on year, then it would have impact. So, reduction in GST rate, it may boost GDP, but lower overall tax collection in short term, obviously. So, tax collection may go down, this is a kind of tax expenditure. The government is ready to forego its collection of tax just to stimulate more demand in the economy, more purchasing, more consumption in the economy, but that would mean this will take a hit, this would go up, but this would go down, overall tax buoyancy would be less than earlier. So, this is incorrect. Bringing out tax amnesty schemes, if tax amnesty scheme, Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana was brought in, income declaration scheme was brought in, where people who have undisclosed income, they come out with their disclosed income and they give the penal charges, then the government would collect more tax. So, that means more tax collection, this is correct. Digitization of economy, again formalization of economy, more GST would be filed, more collection of taxes would be there, and more income tax filing would also be done. Reduction of tax expenditure, this is also correct. When the government reduces its incentives, it may lower nominal GDP, at the same time it may boost tax. Why? Because the government, what is gross tax? Gross tax is tax collected. What is net tax? Gross tax minus tax collection foregone. If tax collection foregone is reduced, then net tax collection would go up, isn't it? That's a common thing. Gross tax minus tax refunds. Refunds could be incentives. If this is lower, then the whole value is net tax. Net tax collection would go up. So, 2, 3 and 4 are the idea may lead to tax buoyancy. 66, C is the correct answer. 67, which of the following best explains the concept of debt overhang? It is a situation in which a country's existing debt is so high that it cannot borrow any further. The idea is that debt to GDP ratio has swelled to so much levels, then what it does basically, it means that the government is not in a position to subscribe to any fresh issue of debt, and it may mean that any developmental projects, it may be financially viable, but they will have to curtail on it because their finances, their consolidation framework is quite bleak. The institutional investors, the rating agencies are not in a position to give them any further approval to go for fresh issuing of debts. This is the idea. A is the correct answer. 68th question. Counter-cyclical fiscal policy. Counter-cyclical fiscal policy. So, what is the idea behind counter-cyclical fiscal policy? If the economy is doing good, put a brake. If the economy is in a downturn, accelerate it. That is counter-cyclical. The cycle of economy is saying that if the economy is doing good, give more boost to the economy. That is cyclical. But counter means do opposite of what is the current trend. So, increasing tax rates during economic boom. This is correct. If the economy is overheating, increase the tax rate. And increase spending if the economy is in a dismal situation. If the economic growth rate is going down, the economy is falling, recession is being predicted, then start giving cash handouts, start giving stimuluses. That is counter-cyclical fiscal policy. 68, A is the correct answer. 69, how many of them are non-banking financial companies? So, the idea is NBFC, they are not deposit taking, they cannot take deposit, but they can issue loans. They can raise money through different ideas, through different avenues, like they can issue bonds to collect money, and then via that money they can issue credit at a higher interest rate to create any interest margins, but they cannot allow deposits. So, all are NBFCs. C is the correct answer for question number 69. Question number 70, consider the following policy instruments. It is how many of them are classified as automatic stabilizers in an economy. Basically, what is automatic stabilizers? It is an automatic brake. If the economy is overheating, if the collections are very high, that would put an automatic brake rather than any authority coming out with their any policy tweaking. It would account on its own. So, if the economy is doing good, if the corporate profits are very high, the tax rate would automatically put a brake on it. So, corporate tax is an automatic stabilizers to make sure that the economy is not overheated. The profits are taxed accordingly. Open market operations, they are deliberate, they are not automatic, they are done by the central bank. So, this is correct, this is incorrect. Unemployment allowances, this is again automatic stabilizers. So, if the economy is not doing good, there would be more unemployment, and because of more unemployment, there would be far many more people, they would be going for unemployment, they will be claiming more unemployment allowances. It is more so pertinent in developed economies where unemployment allowances are given. Even in India, there are specific schemes. If you get registered with employment exchanges of the government, state governments, and you are not getting any jobs, you will get certain unemployment allowances. Standing deposit facility, this is again not automatic, this is done specifically to suck liquidity out of the system by Reserve Bank of India. That is a choice, that is specific tool which is deliberately put by the Reserve Bank of India rather than automatic. So, 1 and 3 are only correct. AIPMT 4, which was held recently. So, the questions were all the questions in a single shot, 26 to 35, 10 questions were from science and tech. So, we will see the questions and explanation to those things. So, the first question was question number 26, that is with reference to the fundamental forces of basic pure science. We need to know there are 4 fundamental forces in nature. What are those 4 fundamental forces? First is electrostatic, second is gravitational, third is strong nuclear, fourth is weak nuclear force. Now, it is talking about what is the distance where for this they are getting applicable. So, electromagnetic forces are, so I told you that is electrostatic, that is electromagnetic forces. Okay, electromagnetic forces. So, electromagnetic forces have infinite range, this is correct. It is K Q1 Q2 upon R square, where R can extend till infinity. So, basically the charges where they are alike or unlike, the force of attraction or repulsion act till infinite. So, any atoms or any electrons would have charge or interaction from other atoms also, but the radius itself is quite high. So, the force goes down, but still technically they have infinite range. Gravitational force has infinite range. Infinite range is G m1 m2 upon R square. Again R tends to till infinity, R can go as high as long as infinity. So, this is incorrect, first is correct, second is incorrect. Strong nuclear force has the shortest range, not infinite range. Again, this is incorrect. It works within the nucleus between proton, neutron. This is how the strong nuclear force work within the nuclear zone. Okay. Beyond nuclear zone, it is weak nuclear forces, but within nuclear zone, it is strong nuclear forces. So only one statement is correct. Statement 1, B is the correct answer for question number 26. Question number 27, again a conceptual. So conceptual means in science and tech you need to know about the concept, you need to apply your brain. So sodium ion batteries can have lower energy density than lithium ion batteries. What is energy density? Energy density is energy per unit volume, energy per unit volume, or it could be per unit mass. Now lithium has atomic number of 3, sodium atomic number 11. Now as you know, as atomic number increases, the atomic radius increases. Sodium ions would have more atomic radius. So for a specific size of battery or for a specific energy that to be required, we need to have sodium ions which will have more size. Like suppose this is a containment, these are ions. Suppose 9 lithium ions can be fixed in this. For the same space, sodium ions are quite large, only 4 ions can be packed in it because of more radius. So in that case, the energy would be is directly proportional to the electron flow, and electron flow means more ions, but in a specific size less ions are there because of sodium being a larger radii. So that means the energy density would be less. Second thing, atomic mass of sodium is more than atomic mass of lithium. So per unit mass also, for the same energy density, the mass of sodium ion battery would be higher. So that is why it has less energy density than lithium. Got it? It has less energy density because for a specific size, more ions means more energy. For lithium, less ions, less energy for sodium. So it has less energy density. Also mass is higher. If we say that okay, we want to fix more same amount of ions to have same amount of energy, then the mass of sodium ion batteries would go up because the atomic mass of sodium ions are higher. First statement is correct. Sodium ions have a larger ionic radius and higher atomic mass compared to lithium atoms. This is correct, and A is the correct explanation for question number 27. Question number 28. Ultra cold atoms, basically nearing 0 Kelvin or minus 273 degree Celsius. At that temperature, the particle nature of subatomic particles, they cease to exist and they switch to quantum mechanics. They behave like wave rather than particles. They go into quantum zone rather than classical physics, the laws governing classical physics. So it says ultra cold atom exhibit wave like behavior. This is correct because at near 0 temperature the motion of atoms slows down, allowing scientists to observe quantum effects clearly. We know that this Heisenberg uncertainty principle, the atoms and the electrons are always in motion. We cannot predict their position and time at a particular point of time, and because at normal temperature. But as we go lower, the kinetic energy goes down because kinetic energy is directly proportional to the temperature, and at that temperature those subatomic particles, they start behaving in a quantum domains more like a wave rather than a particle. Okay, and that is how the scientists try to gauge about their phenomenon. A is the correct answer for question number 28. Lawson criterion is related to nuclear fusion. So Lawson criteria says that at a particular temperature, plasma density and time. So it talks about temperature, plasma density and time duration. for how much time this is to be sustained at a specific, if we talk about this criteria, if we covered, this is a multiple of these three particular variables, at a particular criteria, more energy is released than consumed, and this is what we call as net energy gain. So when we say net energy gain, we know that for sustaining nuclear fusion we need to have specific energy, specific amount of energy, but for that we need to have this criteria. This is more like criticality in nuclear fission. To sustain a chain reaction, we need to have a particular critical values of neutrons which are getting released. In the same manner, nuclear fusion, we have Lawson criteria for specific to ensure that there is more energy that is released than consumed. We need to achieve this particular value. So this is related to nuclear fusion. Question number 30. Metal organic frameworks. So they are crystalline material composed of metal ions coordinated with organic ligands. This is correct. MOFs are characterized. So I guess chemistry, this year's chemistry Nobel Prize has been awarded because of MOFs, or the work in MOFs only. So they have very high surface temp area and tunable pore sizes. They act like a flexible pockets where specific things can be captivated. Okay. MOFs are commonly used as structural material in construction due to their high mechanical strength. No, they are flexible, but they do not have very high mechanical strength. So they are not used in commercial for this as a structural material. So 1 and 2 are only correct, is the correct answer. Question number 31. Consider the following statements. Gram-negative bacteria often shows higher antimicrobial resistance because of protective membrane. Thick cell wall. This is a property of gram-negative bacteria, and that is why antimicrobial resistance antibiotics are non-effective on gram-negative bacteria. This is incorrect. Gram-positive bacteria have lower AMR because of thinner cell wall. The statements are opposite. D is the correct answer. None of the statements are correct. Question number 32. With reference to satellite based internet. So obviously satellite based internet, we know that SpaceX is talking about satellite based internet. Even Amazon has forayed into the satellite based internet. So it is talking about, it is a wireless broadband delivered via communication satellites orbiting the earth. This is correct, but it uses low earth orbit rather than geostationary. Geostationary, technically communication satellites use 36,000 kilometers. We know that there is specific orbit where if the satellites are launched in that particular orbit, the orbital speed and the speed of the rotating speed of earth would be same, and the satellites would look as if they are stationary. But that is used for communication purposes rather than internet based, because if we use geostationary satellite orbits, the latency, the communication delays would be very high, and because of latency it would be very high, it would be very difficult to punch in, or to communicate with the servers, and that would mean there would be delay in internet communication. To overcome this particular challenges, we have plethora of small satellites, nano satellites and micro satellites which are launched in low earth orbit. At low earth orbit, the speed is very high. We know that as we go up, the speed goes down. At a very low earth orbit, the speed is very high, but at the same time the communication is quite fast, and latency, the internet speeds do not fall. Latency is not speed, basically it is delay. If you communicate to a specific server, how quickly it is responding back, what is the time which is there. If latency is very high, the experiences of satellite, if communication would be delayed. In case of low earth orbit, the communication channel is shorter, the latency goes down. So that is why they are using low earth orbit. So to overcome this, they use plethora of satellites together. So that is a constellation of satellites that they are making. So that is why this is also correct. C is the correct answer for question number 32. Question number 33. So Turner's Syndrome is talking about absence of X chromosome, which is hampering females. So, they do not achieve secondary level whatsoever we say development. The secondary sexual development does not take place, their ovaries do not mature, and that leads to what happens, like they become sterile. There could be a situation that they may not bear any child. The Turing test. So, Turing test is all about, it measures the ability of artificial machines, AI machines to mimic or to demonstrate human like intelligence. Basically, there are three sets of things, 2 humans and 1 machine. One human is a prompter, they are asking questions. So, they ask question to a human and AI machines, and they get the responses, and then the accuracy and the speeds are matched, whether the humans, if person A or machine, they are giving same answer, what is the speed which they are giving and the answer, and what is the intellectual ability, the critical problem solving strategies that they used, and this is how they know whether the AI machines are actually able to mimic human intelligence or not. So, that is all about the Turing test. And the last question was related to missile technology. Ballistic missiles follow a guided trajectory throughout their entire flight path? No, they only get guided trajectory at the time of launch. They are launched and they use projectile motion to go and hit the target rather than guided trajectory. Guided trajectory is used by cruise missile. So, cruise missile, they have ramjet or scramjet engines depending upon the speeds, whether they are supersonic, hypersonic missiles, Mach, what is below 5 Mach or beyond 5 Mach. If they are beyond 5 Mach, they can be using supersonic scramjet engines. So, in that case, what idea is, they are all along the path, they are working as if they are getting power through specific combustion of fuel and through jet propulsion technology. But in case of ballistic missile, it is only at the time of launching, they get the initial launch, they go to a particular height and they come back using a projectile motion theory. Okay. So, cruise missile use aerodynamically lift and generally fly within the Earth's atmosphere. This is correct, and that is why BrahMos missile, they move at a very low altitude, and that is why they are able to evade any radar system. They are very difficult to be you can say detected by radar. So, how would a radar work? Radar would signal all the ultrasonic waves. They strike to a particular missile, or they come back, and this is how they get the location. They come to know about the location of particular missiles. But if the altitude is very low, then it would be very difficult for radar to get this information about the trajectory. That is why aerodynamic lift is done using jet propulsion technology for supersonic cruise missiles rather than ballistic missiles. So, first statement is incorrect, second is correct, B is the correct answer for question number 35. So, that is all for the questions from the science and technology section. Thank you.
Hello everyone, this is your discussion of history of AIPMT 4, and questions have been covered from 6 to 10 and then from 51 to 60. So, starting with the question number 1. First question is around Khera Satyagraha, one of the first 3 movements or initial movements of the Gandhiji that he had started, and he has shown the public appearance, you can say, for the first time during the freedom movement. So, see the statement given here that this movement, the Khera Satyagraha movement, took place because of the rise in demand of revenue despite crop failures. Crop failure happened during the period, but it was not because of the rise in demand of the revenue, but because that there was a revenue code during colonial period that if there will be crop failure or if there will be production of the crops which is less than 1/4 of the total production of the same field, then according to the revenue code, the whole of the you can say revenue will be remitted. But because of the crop failure, the revenue was not remitted, and government proceeded with the collection of the taxation. So, this particular movement took place in revolt of the revenue that was being implemented by the government during the period. It was not because of the rise in demand, but the same revenue was being collected despite crop failure. Okay? So, first statement here becomes incorrect in that sense. Second statement is that Gandhiji was a spiritual head of the struggle is a correct statement, and the political head of the struggle, or you can say the movement, was very famous Vallabhbhai Patel, and along with him the local leaders of the period like Naharari Parekh, and Mohanlal Pandya were the other major rulers of the local government, you can say, who became the head of the political struggle during the period, and Gandhiji served as the spiritual head of the Khera movement. So second statement here becomes correct in that sense. Gandhi undertook fast unto death. This hunger strike thing was majorly took place during the movement of Ahmedabad mill strike. So this was also known as first hunger strike of the Gandhiji. So third statement here becomes incorrect in that sense. So here if you see only 2, or you can say B is the only correct option given here. Moving to the next question. Question number 7. This statement or this question is referring to this particular phrase, which is ending or mending, is related to which of the following events or acts, you can say, during the period, which is around debates over council entry into British Legislative Council. What happened after non-cooperation movement, that the movement got stopped, and the people involved in the movement had nowhere to go, but the major leaders of the movement, they wanted to engage themselves in some kind of constructive activities during the period, but because the movement got stuck or stopped because of the non-cooperation movement. So what happened that few leaders like C.R. Das, Motilal Nehru, they wanted to enter the Legislative Council during the period, and somewhere in opposed to that we should not go to the same Legislative Council that was created by British during the period. So what happened that during the same period, C.R. Das and Motilal Nehru wanted to enter the Legislative Council and wanted to change the way or the working that Legislative Council was functioning during the period. So if they could not act around the demands of the Indian people during the period, so they wanted to obstruct the council. So this debate that we should enter the council and we should mend them was about this thing, ending or mending. So answer B will be the correct option here. Next question is around this Lahore session of 1929, Congress ka Lahore session 1929, and we'll see the major activities that took place in the particular session of the Lahore Congress, which happened in 1929, and who presided this particular session, which was presided by for the first time by Jawaharlal Nehru. So the major aim of this particular session of Lahore Congress was the complete independence of the India. So this statement first becomes correct in that sense. Round table conference was to be boycotted, but another thing that was proposed in this particular Congress session. So second is also correct. Delhi Pact or Gandhi-Irvin Pact were endorsed not in the Lahore session but in the Karachi session of the Congress. So third statement here becomes incorrect, and January 26, 1930 was declared as the first independence to be celebrated. It also correct in that sense. So fourth is also correct. So 1, 2 and 3 will be correct option here. Sorry, 1, 2 and 4 will be correct option here. So D will be the answer here. These are the few initiatives that had been taken in the you can say in the session of the Lahore Congress during the period, which were very important session of the Congress in the Indian freedom movement. Next question is around match the following, which you have to identify the major leaders associated with the tribal revolts, then the major causes that led to these particular revolts. So see the first revolt that has been mentioned here, whether the Digambar Viswas is related to coal mutiny. No, Digambar Viswas is very famously known for Indigo revolt. So first option here itself becomes incorrect. The major leader related to the coal mutiny is Buddho Bhagat. You can remember these names, which are very important for examination. Second thing, that it led the coal mutiny took place because of the disruption of traditional land system. Third, the cause is correct, but the particular this section is not correct. So first option here becomes incorrect in that sense. Next is Munda uprising, which was like you can say associated with Birsa Munda is correct. but it was the Munda revolt took place because of the issue of communal land system, ठीक है, और communal लैंड राइट का डिसरप्शन हुआ था उस टाइम पे बिकॉज ऑफ द कॉलोनियल गवर्नमेंट, ठीक है. सो बिकॉज ऑफ दैट द मुंडा रिवोल्ट टुक प्लेस. इट वाज नॉट बिकॉज ऑफ द रैयतवाड़ी सिस्टम. रैयतवाड़ी सिस्टम इज मेजरली रिलेटेड टू विच ऑफ द फॉलोइंग रीजन, मेजरली टू डेक्कन, ठीक है. और मुंडा रिवोल्ट कहाँ हुआ था? मेजरली इन द ईस्टर्न पार्ट ऑफ द इंडिया. सो हेयर ओनली यू कैन guess the answer very easily. So second option here also becomes incorrect. Ramosi uprising which was led by Chittur Singh is correct, but it was not because of the offensive dress code. The offensive dress code system and the mutiny related to offensive dress code is related to Vellore mutiny, ठीक है. It took place around in 1904, ठीक है. So third option also becomes incorrect here. So option answer here will be D, none, ठीक है. Next question is related to communal award, ठीक है. Communal award were based on the findings of the Lothian committee is correct, and which is also very famously known as Indian Franchisee Committee, ठीक है, and which led to the establishment of various separate electorate for different caste and classes, ठीक है, which is mentioned in the second statement given here, that this award accorded the separate electorate for Muslim, European, Sikhs and also for Marathas, ठीक है, and this was one of the policy that is considered a divide and rule policy of the British, which we very famously know, ठीक है. So second statement also here becomes correct. Simon Commission endorsed the communal award is not correct because he kind of rejected this communal award, which is a little strange in nature, but he kind of promoted for the reservation of the seats for the minorities, ठीक है. So reservation के लिए you can say Simon Commission has proposed, but they did not supported the concept of separate electorate. So third statement here becomes incorrect in that sense. So first and second is correct. So A will be your answer, ठीक है. Next question is around Rajgopalachari formula, ठीक है. Majorly this was a pact between Congress and League for the cooperation during the freedom movement, ठीक है. This was one of the tactics that were used during the period by various leaders had used this tactics, like second very famous is Desai-Liaquat plan. And if you read the two statement given here, the second statement is saying that it proposed an equal number of persons which were nominated by the Congress and League at central legislature. This particular statement is not related to Rajgopalachari formula, but it is related to Desai-Liaquat plan, ठीक है. So there were many you can say persons that were involved in the compromises or compromise formula during the period for the you can say between Congress and League for a peaceful transfer of the power during the period, but it could not took place because of the many things that happened in the period. And first statement of this, that Rajgopalachari formula was a tacit acceptance of League's demands of the Pakistan is correct. Even Gandhi ji has supported this formula. So this is also one of the thing that you can you should know. So first statement here becomes correct, but second is not correct. So we won't go into the thing that whether the second statement is justifying the first or not, because first is correct, second is not. So first is correct and second is not in, so answer will be C, ठीक है. Next question is around Maulana Abul Kalam Azad. He was one of the pioneer or very famous leader who was very much associated with the Hindu-Muslim unity during the freedom movement, and for which he had also like published many papers and got involved in many kind of movement during the period. So one of the very famous journal that he had published during the period for the Hindu-Muslim unity or for the sake of the communalism purpose. So he has written this Al-Hilal to increase the revolutionary recruit among Indian Muslims. So first statement here becomes correct, ठीक है. He is the only person to have presided over Indian National Congress, and second is that Muslim League, which is not correct, ठीक है. He was Hakim Ajmal Khan, ठीक है. He was a major person that is related for presiding both Indian National Congress and Muslim League. Apart from that, he also presided All India Khilafat Committee. Okay? So, second statement here becomes incorrect. He became a member of Bombay Legislative Council and known as Trivarnath of Bombay's public life, which is not correct because major Muslim leader who is related with the Bombay Public Life and Legislative Assembly is Badruddin Tayyab ji. Okay? Apart from that, it also included Firoz Shah Mehta. Okay? So, you can remember these very famous and very important name for your examination that can be asked in your UPSC examination. Maulana Abul Kalam Azad, Badruddin Tayyab ji, Hakim Ajmal Khan, okay? Firoz Shah Mehta. Okay? So, they are very important leader for your exam purpose. Okay? So, second and third becomes incorrect here. So, option A will be the only correct option here. Okay? Next question is around this very famous temple in Cambodia, which is known as Preah Vihar temple in Cambodia. Okay? And major gods that are related to this particular temple, because you have seen that the influence of Hinduism has spread to Southeast Asia region during the South Indian kingdoms like Chola and Vijayanagar Empire. Okay? So, this is one of the influence that took place during the period of medieval history, you can say. Okay? So, this particular temple, Preah Vihar, Cambodia, has been dedicated to Sikhareswara and Vadhareshwara, which are a manifestation of Lord Shiva, and also very important mountain Meru is symbolically you can say depicted in this particular temple. Okay? So, first statement here becomes correct in that sense. It was built by Sanjaya king is not correct. It was built by Khmer kings. Okay? And Suryavarman I and Suryavarman II are two major kings that are majorly related to this particular you can say building of this particular Preah Vihar temple in Cambodia. So, second statement here becomes incorrect in that sense. So, first is only correct. So, A will be the answer here. Okay? Next question is related to a particular term that has been asked. Generally, UPSC has this tendency of asking, you can say, many terminology based question from ancient and medieval history. So, this is one of the thing that has been asked in AIPMT 4. So, you see that this summons is particularly related to the person who claim magical and healing power. It can be both men and women. Okay? So, these are the few terms that you need to remember whenever you are preparing for your examination. Okay? C is the correct option here. This is very easy if you know. If you do not know, you can skip such questions. Okay? Next question is around Tamil Sangam, which is very easy in nature. Okay? You just have to remember which of the following Sangams have been presided by which of the following personality. Okay? So, the first Sangam was presided by or chaired by Agastya is correct. Second was by Tolakappiyar is also correct, and third by Nakiyar is also correct. Okay? And these all Sangams took place in the era of or in the kingdom of Pandya dynasty. Okay? So, this is another information that you can take from this question. Apart from that, all the kingdoms, all the Sangams are majorly related to or divided into two particular, you can say, segments, which is Aham and Puram. Okay? Aham is majorly known for the expression of love, and Puram is majorly known for the human experiences and majorly related for the ethics related topics of the literature. Okay? So, you can divide your Sangam literature into these two particular categories also. Apart from that, the first and third Sangam, both these two took place in the city of Madurai, and the second Sangam only took place in the city of Kapatapuram. Okay? This is another information that you can take from here. So, all the options here are correct. So, C will be the answer. Okay? All three. Next question is around medieval history. Sher Shah's administration. He was very famously known for the administration during the period, and many of the cues were taken by Akbar also because of his efficient administration that he established during his reign. Okay? So, first question is around that he introduced custom duty for goods only at the 2 points. First, at the site of the northwestern region of the Indian subcontinent at the point of Indus river, you can say, and second region was from the eastern side of the continent, which was Bihar and Bengal region. Okay? So, major region that only tax will be collected only at 2 points of the subcontinent was that of the easy movement of the goods to facilitate the trade and commerce during the region. So, first statement here becomes correct in that sense. Second is that it led to the creation of a specialized market for the grain, cloth and slave is majorly related to the policies of Alauddin Khilji, okay, not related to the reign of Sher Shah administration. So, this statement becomes incorrect in that sense. Also Khilji is known for the appointment of Sahana Mandi, who used to superintend the market during this period. He appointed many spies during the period for efficient administration of the market during the period. So, market policy is majorly related to Alauddin Khilji. So, second statement here becomes incorrect. Okay? For land revenue policy, he divided land, which is correct, into good, bad and middling. Okay? And a crop rate was fixed for the collection of revenue during the period. So, third statement also becomes correct. So, first and third is correct. So, answer will be C here. Okay? Next question is around socio-economic condition of Mughal India. So, you see that two statements are given here. The major, many questions have been asked in UPSC examination around the travelers of the Mughal India or the travelers of the Vijayanagar Empire during Krishnadeva during Deva one. Okay? So, these two major, you can say foreign travelers that traveled during the period of Mughal Empire, and both belong to the, and both you can say were the Dutch merchants. Okay? And they talked about the staple diet at khichdi in the Gangetic plan of the Mughal India is correct, and they also have talked about the major food system of the Bengal region, that they used to eat the fish, and then in the south region they used to eat the meat. Okay? So, these are the few things, or you can say the major food system he had talked about in the period of the Mughal India, okay? Of the western region, of the mid-Gangetic region, or of the southern region and the eastern India. Okay? So, first statement here becomes correct in that sense. Second statement is referring that Khudkhast were non-resident cultivators is not correct, because Pahikast were known as the non-resident cultivator who used to visit different village for the sake of employment during the period. Khudkhas were majorly related to the same region, and they were the primary zamindar or primary cultivator of the region. So, first, second statement here becomes incorrect in that sense. So, one only will be the only correct option. Okay? Next question is around Gingji Fort. Okay, this question actually has been asked because it has been in news. Okay? So, majorly we try to connect your static portion with the current developments also. So, we are trying to ask that this question in that context, and the question is around the three statement that it has been established or built by the 12th century king, which was Andakon, a chieftain of the Yadva community. First statement here becomes correct. Okay? Second is that it was the birthplace of the Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj is not correct, because he took birth in the Shivneri fort. Okay? So, second statement here becomes incorrect in that sense. And third statement that Aurangzeb has called this particular fort, Gingji Fort, as the Troy of the East is not correct, because it has been called by Shivaji Maharaj himself, and because it was very impregnable in nature. Okay? So, third statement here becomes incorrect. So, first or one only will be the only correct option. So, A is the answer. Okay? Next question around the festivals of the India. These are the questions generally asked from the art and culture section of the history. So, see the first statement. It has talked about the Lankrabar festival, which is celebrated in the Puri around the Sri Jagannath temple, you can say, and every 8 to 19 years you can say the major idols of the temple is replaced. Okay? And the new idols are made from the new trees of the neem tree, you can say. Okay? So, first statement here becomes correct. Okay? Hola Mohalla is a festival related with the Sikh, has been started by Guru Gobind Singh is correct, because it is also very famously known as the Sikh Olympics. Okay? So, second statement here becomes correct. Okay? And the third statement is telling that Sodal Mela is the annual festival of the Jains, which is not correct. Parsyanu is very famous festival, is related to the annual pilgrimage of the Jains people. So, here Sodal Mela is particularly a kind of festival which is used to pay homage to the Sodal Baba in the region of Punjab. Okay? So, this particular festival is related to the region of Punjab, not related to the Jain community. So, third statement here also becomes incorrect in that sense. So, first and two is correct. So, A will be your answer. Okay? Next question is the last question of this paper is around the Italian of the very another question is related to this traveler thing, you can say, because many questions have been asked about travelers that travel to the kingdom of the South India and North India, you can say, during the period. So this is another question of yours which is related to the traveler. So see that this particular traveler has called the Telugu language as the Italian of the East, and he also found this famous tomb of Saint Thomas, and which indicated the presence of Christian community in the medieval India also, ठीक है, before the coming of the Britishers during the period, ठीक है. So you can say this particular statement had been marked by Niccolo da Conti, which is answer D will be your answer, and you can say he visited Vijayanagar Empire during the period and saw such things in the period and majorly related to the reign of Devarai I, ठीक है. So this is your end of this discussion of AIPMT 4 history question. For any doubt, you can reach to the institution. Thank you so much.